This is the first part of a tutorial series I hope to complete that will cover the entire process of creating a Five Nights at Freddy's styled game from conceptualization to release. I hope to cover design, 3D modeling, animation, rendering, programming, sound design, and more. This series will teach a wide range of versatile knowledge that can be used for many kinds of projects. Before we start this long endeavor, though, I must give a forewarning that I am not perfect and oftentimes inefficient. Do not take everything I say as gospel. I will also not be able to cover every detail of every software used in this project because of the sheer number of things we will be covering. You will face challenges and problems in your own individual projects that I will not provide the solutions to in these videos. Everyone is unique, and each person may thrive from using different processes as well, so don't feel bad about deviating from what I say. I highly recommend that you do your own research. I say it's required. Take advantage of all the knowledge you can find on YouTube and the wider internet to grow. I started learning a lot of what I know because I was originally inspired by FNaF and wanted to make a fan game of my own. Now, years later, I would like to share my knowledge to help and enable other creators, just like the tutorials I learned from in the past. I am a small, independent creator at the time of recording this video and am still learning myself, as we all are. I am the founder of small entertainment studio Heriferum. If you'd like to see my future works, keep an eye on it. I have also been a FNaF fan since the second game, and the franchise is about to have its 10-year anniversary. So, for the sake of the series, my credentials will be an unofficial doctorate in the field of Five Nights at Freddy's. I was mainly around during the earlier days of the game, so do not be surprised if my perspective has its classical edge. Now, we must first talk about you, the artist, before we talk about your project. You must properly prepare your mind before working on a big project. Why are you making a FNaF fan game, or any other project that you are working on? Reasons like finding popularity, appealing to the masses, or trying to make something better than everyone else are not the best reasons to create something like this. Please only do it if you find enjoyment in it. Trying to do something grueling and artistic without having passion or enjoyment will only burn you out. Also, trying to appeal to too many people besides yourself will result in a gray, identity-confused project. We all hate it when big movie or game studios try to appeal to everyone at once for peak marketability and need to avoid falling into the same exact traps ourselves. It's okay to desire success, it's only natural, but create because you want to create. I must also address a burnout. Do not overwork yourself or you'll find yourself unable to work at all. It is like the story of the turtle and the hare. Take your time steadily rather than speeding ahead then falling behind when you suddenly stop. Take breaks regularly, touch grass, drink water, and live your life. You cannot create art if your tank of real-life experiences material is empty. Special note, if you're around the age of 12 to 14, still go for it. Go with your ambitions and learn. Know that it will be hard, but you're on the right track to go places. Start early and you'll have hard-earned skills for the rest of your life. I believe in you. This goes for anyone. You can do hard things if you set your mind to it. Almost all things start with an inspiration. To begin creating a FNaF-styled game, you need a starting point. You may already have an idea, a premise, characters, or an inspiration, but for the sake of this tutorial, I will suppose that you are starting out with nothing. Finding inspiration can be difficult, and sometimes it comes from the weirdest of places. Some good places to look for inspiration are songs or soundtracks, urban legends, mythology, concept art, movies, shows, games, dreams, your own past creations, or events from your life. Being open-minded and trying or learning new things, going out into the world, can help bring you inspiration. Video games are loosely based on real life, and narratives are based on personal experiences. Stories are relatable because they all tie back to experiences that many people share. Find something that you'd like to share. Inspiration comes to you like a cat coming to be pet. Your mind will tie things together eventually. As long as you try to keep your mind open, something will stick. Even when you have to come up with something on the spot, keeping your mind open instead of criticizing what you make will lead to growth. Creative exercises are an example of this in action. They're usually done without a high goal, such as finishing a project, making it big, or even making anything good. They give you a context to be open-minded and let your creativity run without being burdened by perfectionism. When you find things that inspire you, some ways to collect them are creating a mood board, which Canva is great for, putting together a Pinterest board, making a text document with pictures and links, putting together a digital slideshow, making a playlist of music, or just putting pieces of inspiration together in a folder in real life or on your device. Some software that could come in handy would be PureRef or the Google applications like Slides, Docs, etc. Collect inspirations to immerse yourself in your game idea, but remember that the visual aesthetics of your game are only one aspect of it. Remember to consider all aspects, like mechanics, sound design, etc., at some point. Now I would like to discuss rules and planning for your project, and how they are important. But first, I must tell you about limbo. Sometimes, to start working on something, you'll have to overcome static friction to begin. Waiting for motivation or the perfect thing to get you going can end in you never getting anything done. Motivation can come from working rather than the other way around. Thinking is like the opposite of doing, and this is not a bad thing. When you are thinking, you're usually stopping to think. It is important to plan your next move, but if you only think and plan, you'll never do. Planning is important, but you can get yourself stuck in a limbo of planning or looking for the perfect idea that inspires you enough to work, even making excuses to not start yet. On doing, if you start working before you can overthink yourself into a corner, you'll get things done, but if you never stop to think, you'll run into a lot of problems that would be solved by forethought. It's important to balance planning and working. Planning is to direct your thinking, and working is where you learn hands-on skills and make tangible progress. Working will often even change parts of your plan, so it is important to let both work and plan dance together in balance. Throw things at the canvas and see what sticks. Get your ideas onto the page in the beginning without concern for quality. You can worry about perfection later. The beginning of a project is where you can easily afford to destroy and rebuild it drastically, and this process of throwing things at the canvas allows ideas you never would have even thought of before to thrive. When you first start laying down all your ideas into a plan, you're making a rough draft. It's in the title, rough. You can tweak what you put down in your rough draft later. The first draft of something is virtually never perfect and comes into its own shape with future drafts and further tweaks. You may even want to make multiple drafts of an idea and choose the best of them, even fusing parts of them together to make the best one. When you start with a blank canvas, get anything on it. Get it messy. As I mentioned before, do not paralyze yourself by overthinking it. Polish comes at the end, after you draft, and iterate that draft. Make the blank white void of your empty project come to life before trying to perfect it. Don't judge yourself on the quality of your rough draft either. The rough draft is quantity and creativity, not quality. Now I may address rules and limits. If your mind is given free rein to create whatever it wants, it's harder to make anything at all. The more choices you have, the harder it is to choose between them. If I offered you 2 pens to choose from, red or blue, you'd probably have an easier time choosing which you want between the 2 colors, as opposed to if I offered you a custom pen of any color. This applies to creativity. Rules give our minds context and a structure to climb. Limiting the options you could choose from will make your decisions more directed and valuable. Come up with creativity rules for yourself. In story writing, for example, you can set certain tropes, character types, or common genre limits. In story writing, for example, you can set certain tropes, character designs, or common genre elements off limits from your story. Choosing a genre or theme in itself gives you a limit to work within. Limiting the size of your project can also encourage greater creativity and is actually important for success. For game design, limits are very valuable. Without limits, the scope of your game can creep until your game idea becomes so expansive that it is impossible for one person to take on alone, or it'd be maddening to try to execute. This is called scope creep. Fictional worlds also need consistent rules to play by. World rules give events in your story more meaning as the events play around the limits of the setting. A setting could be unrealistic, but if everything follows consistent rules, it won't be jarring to the reader, viewer, or player. Keep in mind your format as well. This tutorial series will focus on making a FNaF-styled game or FNaF fangame. FNaF is basically a genre of its own. The ideas you decide on for this kind of project will have to translate well into its format. I have broken down the FNaF genre into a formula that can be easily followed. The 5 Nights at formula, the FNaF. This formula has 4 aspects: the survivor, the hunter, the escape, and the prevention, which kind of goes down into ship. Each main aspect has its own important sub-aspects. I will explain each. The survivor. The survivor is the protagonist surviving against the hunter. The setting of the game or story usually explains the survivor's presence and the relevant occupation to the situation. For example, the survivor is usually a night guard or animatronic repairman at a family entertainment restaurant. The survivor is always trapped with the hunter. The hunter. The hunter is the monster or being hunting the survivor. Its presence is also usually explained by the setting. For example, the hunter is usually an entertainment animatronic hunting the employees of the establishment they are based in. An important question to answer for the hunter is why they are hunting the survivor. And what relation do they have to the survivor, even if it is only just in the hunter's instincts to hunt them? The escape. The one way that the survivor can leave the situation they are trapped in with the hunter. The one escape is an important aspect of this formula and ties everything together. For example, the escape is usually the end of the survivor's shift at the establishment they work at. The hunter must be rendered unable to strike once the escape is available to the survivor. The prevention. The tools the survivor uses to keep the hunter at bay. This aspect can be easily overlooked, but it differentiates Five Nights-styled horror from most other horror. The prevention tools are appropriate to the setting, and are usually part of the environment. For example, the prevention tools are most commonly doors, vent doors, flashlights, or hiding spaces. The prevention never rids the survivor permanently of the threat of the hunter. The prevention is also usually the survivor's only tool against the hunter, and plays a big part in making the survivor feel powerless. There are no real weapons to wield in this genre. They are too powerful. There are only tools to barely keep the hunter out until the one escape is available. This formula can fit a wide variety of settings if you get creative. The expected and iconic theme is a night guard surviving against restaurant animatronics. But this is only one product of the format. Not every platforming game is about a plumber. The Five Nights at formula could overlay a story about a fisherman on a boat surviving from vampire islanders until sunup, so he can untie his ship from the dock. Or even a story about a dog preventing her injured owners from wolves until ambulances arrive by barking out the windows. The Five Nights at formula also works harmoniously with Freytag's Pyramid. FNaF-styled games often have 5 main levels, each corresponding to a night survived in the game's setting. Each night becomes more difficult until you reach the end of the game, and this mirrors Freytag's Pyramid. The pyramid works in tandem with game design, not just story writing. Even in non-story-based games, Freytag's Pyramid can live. For example, in a match-based game, the match has a beginning, middle, and end. Character and story elements can nestle into the gameplay here in the form of character reactions or world events during the match, because it is just another Freytag's Pyramid in disguise. Another important part of every story is the dynamics. Dynamics give everything meaning, as rules do. They are another device of context. For example, imagine a story about 3 random people having to survive a natural disaster together. This idea doesn't grab your attention so strongly until I tell you that one of them is a Robin Hood type criminal, the other is a drunken police officer, and the last of them is a rich condemning priest. What makes these 3 people specifically so interesting is the dynamics between them. The drama. The criminal would condemn the priest for being greedy, the police officer would condemn the criminal for stealing, but then the priest would condemn the officer for his addiction. The survivor in the FNA formula has a goal that they are trying to reach, often just survival, but the hunter is in the way. This already begins a dynamic of opposition, but you can add extra flavor to your story by adding something more. What if the one escape in the formula kills the hunter? Or what if the prevention comes at a great physical or emotional cost to the survivor? As you weave together your ideas into something, you should remove any unnecessary bits. If something in your story, game, or project does not contribute or weave in with any other elements, it might be a good idea to cut it out. There are exceptions, such as Easter eggs, but those usually aren't very disruptive to the main project and are quite small. Cutting things out for the greater good of your project, even when you may really like them, is called killing your darlings or throwing away your babies. I was mentioning earlier how your rough draft is where you can afford to throw things in and cut your ideas apart, and I must elaborate further. Once your first ideas begin settling into a more concrete concept, you need to prune them. Game design, basically every other creative field, is harder than you think. Adding a small feature to your concept can multiply into hours of work later. As I said before, beware scope creep. A true popular saying to remember is, keep it simple, stupid, or kiss. With all of this knowledge now poured out, hopefully I have given you tools, or some kind of orientation to begin working on your project. The truth is, I cannot give you a step-by-step process to completing your project, and can only offer help. Your journey will be unique, and you will face unique challenges, as I mentioned earlier. The step of brainstorming especially, I cannot guide you through. What I have covered here will hopefully inform you during the entire process of creating your project. Mostly everything I said was quite general knowledge that can help you out with many different kinds of projects, and throughout each phase of each project. In the next part, I am hoping to cover design, a more specific topic, and actually solidifying your concept into a plan. For now, go crazy and brainstorm. Write anything you want down, draw anything, collect all your inspirations. Nothing is permanent. Don't worry about quality and just have fun. Having fun is very important here. Start coming up with the setting of your story, the characters, etc. I have given you the FNA formula as a tool to help. Go get excited and create. Thank you for listening to my entire lecture. Please let me know if there's anything you'd like me to cover in future episodes or anything I can do to make these videos better. Again, I am hoping to make an entire extended series out of this, so please let me know if I should keep going. I hope all your projects go super well. I will be back again.